right, well, we'll go ahead and get started. We'll sort of let people trickle in a little bit, but I'll go ahead and what I'll do is just start off by giving us an introduction, and then we'll just start and go through our program here. So first of all, I want to thank everybody so much for joining or watching this later on. We're recording it. I'm so thankful that we've got with us here today that our Texas Agriculture Commissioner, Sid Miller. He's here to talk to us about what he's seeing in conservative politics across the state. It's such an honor for him to spend this time with us, and I'm so grateful that he's here and taking the time out of his schedule. We're going to be talking with Sid here in just a bit, but first I want to take a moment and just tell you all a little bit about myself. I know that many of you know me. You know about my family. You know that I grew up here, that I graduated high school here. But I want to tell you a little bit about why it is that I decided to get in this race and run to become the next judge of the 114th District Court. I get that question quite frequently when I'm out talking to folks. The main reason is I truly feel called in my life to give back to this community, the community that I grew up in, the community where I was raised, a community that's given me so much in my life. I feel it's my obligation to use the gifts and the talents that I've been given in my life to give back to my community. And that's one of the reasons that I decided to throw my hat into this race. But there's also a very specific reason that drove me to get involved in this, and that really set me on this path. After I graduated from law school at Baylor, my wife, Jennifer, who's here with us today, she and I she had to finish up her studies, her master's degree and her PhD at Baylor. And so we decided to try to juggle our lives at that point. We needed to figure out some place for me to start my career and some place that was convenient for her to continue her studies at Baylor. And so I accepted a job in Dallas at a law firm where I started my career. I started building my experience there with the law firm while she commuted back and forth to Waco for class. After she graduated from her PhD program at Baylor, Jen and I moved our family back home to East Texas, and I was given the opportunity and the blessing by my partners at the law firm to open our first office outside of Dallas, right here in East Texas. We were serving clients out here throughout all of my practice with the firm, but this gave us an opportunity to truly have a presence here for the benefit of our clients. And I'm so grateful that my partners and my colleagues gave me that opportunity to start our practice out here and start this office. But that time practicing law in Dallas, it really opened my eyes to what it means to have a judge with an agenda. Here in Smith County, we're so blessed. We're truly blessed to have such wonderful judges that are good, that are hardworking, that are competent and conservative. It was a different story when I was practicing in the big city. When I started practicing in Dallas, Democrats swept into the judiciary. Some did not even try to hide their bias. I've stood with my clients in the courtroom in front of judges knowing that before I ever opened my mouth, before I ever made an argument, no matter how just my cause or righteous my argument, that I knew I had no chance that day. It was a feeling that stuck with me, and it sticks with me today. It's an experience I would hope no litigant would have standing in front of a court, standing in front of a judge. But it reinforces in me today why it's so important to have conservative, honest judges there judging the facts and not writing the law. All I can say about my time in Dallas is thank God for trials by jury. I'm so thankful I had the opportunity to start my career with Chamblee Ryan. I've practiced all sorts of different types of law, representing businesses, healthcare workers, individual citizens, sometimes in cases involving major injuries and death, cases where people's businesses and livelihoods are truly at stake. I want to take the time now to introduce to you somebody who means to me a whole lot in my practice. He is my law partner, somebody that I'm proud to call my friend, and somebody that has mentored me as a lawyer and really taught me a lot about practicing law and what it means to be a good lawyer. And so Jeff, we've got with us Jeff Ryan here. He's one of the founding partners at Chamblee Ryan, where I'm proud to call my home. And so Jeff, if you could please just introduce yourself and take the mic a little bit.
Thanks, Jared. I appreciate you letting me be part of this evening, and I don't think there's enough time for me tonight to explain how excited I am for the citizens of Smith County that they get an opportunity to vote for a man like you. For those of you that don't know me, I've been privileged to have the opportunity to work with Jarad personally for the last decade plus. He's my friend, but in addition to being my friend now, we've worked very, very closely. And when you're in the trenches with somebody, when you're working as closely as I've worked with Jarad over the last decade, you really get some insight into what makes the people that you work with. And I've certainly had that opportunity with Jarad. As I sat here and I started thinking about how excited I am about his campaign and his opportunity to be a judge, I've thought about what are those things that I saw in the last decade that really set him apart. And I'm going to start with one thing that I think is important as he runs for judge, and that is he knows the law. He absolutely knows the law. He has made it his life study to know the law. We've had the opportunity to travel all over the state together and to practice law in courts throughout the state of Texas. And one thing that's evident is he understands and knows the law. He knows, heck, ever since he started working for me and working with me, when it came to law and talking to judges about what the law is, I've done this for 30 years, but I've always started trusting Jarad to communicate the law, to understand the law, and to discuss the law with the judges that we've appeared in front of. He knows the law without question. I've also gotten to experience the fact that how much he loves Smith County and this community. He's already told you about growing up in Smith County. He told you about how he started practicing in Dallas County, but it was clear from day one that if I was going to be able to get him to continue to work with me, we had to figure out a way for him to do it in Tyler, Texas. And that's why we were just thrilled that we could join with him and that he had the opportunity to go and start an office for our law firm so he could work in Tyler, in Smith County, serving the citizens of Smith County. As we've traveled the state and got to know each other, one of the other things I know about Jarad is he is a true conservative. He truly is. He understands because he's watched judges try to impose their views and their beliefs and their interpretations on others. And as I've watched him for 10 years, you get to realize Jarad knows that when he takes the bench in the 114th, that it's going to be his job to interpret the law and not just to try to convey his own personal beliefs and values on the citizens. But as I talk about that, the thing that I really kind of come back to with Jarad is really something that's very general, but it's very important. He's a good person. Jarad has a heart for people. He has compassion for people. And I have no doubt that he will be able to take that fairness, that compassion, that integrity, and apply it when he takes the bench. You know, he talked about traveling all across the state, and some of the judges that we've had the opportunity to practice in front of. And we can tell you stories. There's some bad ones, there's some average ones, and there's some good ones. But Jarad has taken that, I think, over the last decade plus, and he's learned from that. And I think one of the things you're going to see when he takes the bench is he's going to take the things he learned by having the opportunity to travel throughout this great state, and he's going to take the good things and he's going to bring them to Smith County. And you're going to find a judge. You're going to find a judge that treats people fairly, that has the right judicial temperament, and he is going to be a great judge for Smith County. You know, out of everybody that's sitting on this panel right now, I'm probably the one that has the most to lose. Because when he wins, he's not going to be an attorney working with me anymore. But my loss, our firm's loss, is going to be Smith County's gain. And I couldn't be more excited about what Jarad has to bring to the folks in Smith County. So With that, I'll turn it over back to you, Jarad.
Thank you so much, Jeff, for those kind words, and really thank you for all the leadership you've shown in the firm and the mentorship that you've shown towards me. It really means a lot. You're a phenomenal attorney, somebody it's been an honor to learn from over my career. So thank you so much. We've also got with us, and I'll sort of turn it over to them now. We'll start with Sandy. We're blessed at our firm to have such wonderful clients. Folks that trust us with their problems, with their legal disputes, and their businesses. And so we're blessed here today to have two of my clients, folks that I've worked so closely with over the years. And we'll start with Sandy Sportsman. Sandy's the risk manager at FFE Transportation. And so Sandy, if you could just tell us a little bit about yourself and your experience working with me.
Like you said, I'm the director of risk for a large trucking company here in Dallas. And for my company, it's our philosophy that we pay for claims that we owe and we defend what we don't. In order to do this, it's imperative that I have an attorney that is not only knowledgeable of the law, but is truly dedicated to the litigation process and also possesses an admirable sense of right and wrong. For me, Jarad is that attorney, or was that attorney. I've been with Jarad for about 7 or 8 years now and have always admired his self-confidence and his ability to rise up and defend my company and myself under the pressures in a courtroom all over the state. I have depended on Jarad to conduct countless legal research on issues with my case, and I'm always confident that his findings will be 100% accurate, and he was satisfying to me even when research was something I wasn't going to want to hear. I spent many hours in depositions, mediations, and trials with Jarad, so I've gotten to know him on a personal level. I always enjoyed listening to him talk about growing up in Tyler and how much he loves the town. He is so proud of his dad, who has practiced law here, and his mother, who was a judge in Tyler for many years. Following in her footsteps would be an honor for him, and I know how dedicated he would be not only to the judgeship, but to the people in the town that he loves so much. I've seen Jarad stay cool and calm in many situations where the room could become volatile. I can recall at least one time that I was the instigator of such apparently telling the plaintiff attorney that I was tired of his client trying to extort money from the company and really heat up the room. But Jarad quickly calmed everyone down and got us all back on track. When he told me of his and Jennifer's plans to move to Tyler and open up a satellite office there, I wasn't surprised. A few years later, when he told me he planned to run for the judgeship in Tyler, I was thrilled for him. Even though I know I'm going to be losing a wonderful attorney, I support him for Tyler's new judge 100%.
Thank you so much, Sandy. I really appreciate it, and thank you for your friendship over the years and for trusting us with all the work that you've given us. It really means a lot. We've also got with us Aaron Mutnick, who's a dear friend of mine, both from law school, and we've also had the pleasure over the last number of years to work together. Aaron, if you could introduce yourself to us and just sort of relay some information to the folks about our interactions together.
Happy to, Jarad. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for having me here. My name is Aaron Mutnick. I'm a senior litigation attorney with Shelter Insurance. So one of my jobs is to hire and fire attorneys to represent people in litigation and what is for that person probably the most important thing that is going on in their life at that time. In some cases, their business is on the line, their financial well-being, their family's survival could be on the line. And I've hired Jarad no fewer than 30 times over the past 6 years to take on those types of very serious cases. I found that Jarad is prompt, which is really important, and I'll talk about that just in a second. He's practical in his approach, and he's incredibly efficient. The one thing that I would like to really highlight is that to practice law really well and to serve your clients, and to, if you are a judge, to serve your community really well, is that you have to treat your practice like it's any other business that is that's out there. You have to look for technology. You have to look for processes to make yourself more efficient and more effective. And you have to be prompt and responsive. If you're not, if you're late, if you are not timely with giving your advice to counsel to your clients, with filing documents with the court, it creates a trickle-down effect of inefficiency where you are taxing the judiciary and you're also in the end taxing your clients. And that is one thing that, if that were the case, if I had an attorney who was constantly late, inefficient, using ineffective tools at my and my customers' expense, I'd fire them.
Thank you so much, Aaron. Just can you give us an idea? I mean, obviously you and I know we've worked together for so long, but can you give the folks an idea of the kinds of cases that you have me working on, and really what's at stake for these folks and the kind of cases that you have me handle?
Several of them are cases where there's been a death, and several of them are where the person that Jared's representing is a small business owner who's essentially their livelihood is going to depend on whether Jared can resolve the case in a fair and favorable way. What really sticks out about the complexity of a lot of these cases is that Jared essentially has to make himself an expert in a variety of ways. Sometimes that means that he has to review thousands and thousands of pages of medical records and become essentially an expert on some type of surgery or a mechanism of an injury. He has to essentially make himself an expert in accident reconstruction and physics to understand how these types of injuries could happen in the first place, and to essentially build a case on rebuilding fractions of seconds to understand what truly happened. And that takes a certain level of, obviously, of patience, but efficiency and competence, because that could be something that someone spends hours and hours of time on and really has no better understanding of the case than when they started. So when you have a complex issue like a serious injury, serious death, or that's combined with a complex set of facts that led up to that, you really need to have an attorney like Jared who makes themselves an expert in that area in order to make an effective representation of their client.
Well, thank you so much, Aaron. Thanks for agreeing and jumping in and doing this on short notice.
Sure.
I really appreciate it. Thank you, Sandy, for doing it as well. We want to sort of move now and get Sid in on this. And before we do that, I'm just going to say a few words about Sid and how much it means to me to have him standing with me in this race. Sid's our Texas Agriculture Commissioner. He was one of the first statewide officials in Texas to get behind our president when President Trump ran for office. President Trump himself has dubbed Sid Trump's man in Texas. He is a true conservative. Anybody that follows his presence on social media knows the values that he stands for and the beliefs that he fights for. We're so lucky in Texas to have somebody of his caliber out there fighting the battles for us in the trenches, protecting our freedom. It's just so important for us here in Texas to have somebody doing that. And so when Sid told me that he was going to endorse my candidacy, I was so grateful because that means so much to me to have somebody that has the beliefs and the ability to get out there and fight for the values that he fights for. To have somebody like that standing with me, it means so much to me. So without further ado, I'd like to turn it over now to Sid. And Sid, if you could just sort of introduce yourself to folks and just talk with us a little bit about the importance of having conservative judges in Texas.
You bet. Well, Jarrett, good to be with you. And before I forget, I'm going to be with you and all your good folks there on July the 9th at the Republican Club. We'll be out and I'll be speaking. I think it starts at 6. I'm not sure where the venue is, but I'll be back in Smith County. So look forward to seeing everybody again. It's been a few months since I've been over there, but I always love coming over to East Texas and to to the rose capital of Texas. Of course, Jared said I'm the Commissioner of Agriculture. It's a statewide elected office, just like the governor, lieutenant governor. I run the Department of Agriculture. Everybody thinks all we do is cows, plows, and sows, but we do a lot more than that. My agency I oversee a $6 billion agency. That may not mean anything to you, but my budget is larger than the budget of 31 governors. So we have a lot of stuff we do besides just agriculture. We're the Consumer Protection Agency for the state. My largest division is food and nutrition, and that's what we've been. We've really been hustling since the virus pandemic is broke out. I'm responsible for 5 million school meals each day, and run all the nutritional programs: school lunch, school breakfast, summer feeding programs. We work with Meals on Wheels, area food banks, elderly feeding programs, etc. So the pandemic, Jared, is kind of thrown a new wrinkle at us with schools not being able to serve the meals. Since the pandemic started, we've set up over 6,000 feeding sites across the state, trying to keep these kids fed. And I've had, to get waivers to change the way we do business, so they can grab and go meals, so they can pick up multiple meals, so the child doesn't have to be present when they pick up the meals. We, had to get waivers so we could serve whole milk instead of skim milk. I think the most interesting thing that came about, and I think your listeners will probably enjoy this. Remember when this first thing hit, no one could find any toilet paper. None, anywhere. Well, we were working we had a lot of things going on. One of my inspectors found a whole warehouse full of toilet paper. I said, good, but why aren't they shipping it? He said, they can't ship it. They can't sell it in Texas. I said, what's wrong? He said, well, there's a Texas law that says, everything you sell in Texas the instructions have to be in English. I said, you got to be kidding me. Who needs instructions for toilet paper? We all know how to use it. So I said, come on, use a little cowboy logic. So I requested and got a waiver to sell Spanish labeled toilet paper. And that kind of put an end to the toilet paper shortage across Texas. Just a little inside baseball. People don't know what, goes on behind the scenes. All of a sudden HEB had plenty of it. So that's some of the things we do. We worked, Smith County is a large medical center. Y'all got lots of hospitals, a lot of medical personnel there. I also run the Office of Rural Health Care. So we're responsible for 193 counties, making sure that Texans have rural health care in the rural parts of the state. Our rural hospitals, as Jared knows, they've been struggling even before the pandemic. We have the highest uninsured rate, the most elderly population, and the two most dangerous occupations, farming and the oil field. So when no more elective surgeries, no sports injuries, very few automobile accidents, it just about broke them all. So we actually, some of y'all may have taught it, but 60 Minutes did a special on apply to rural hospitals in Texas and did an interview where I was delivering personal protective equipment, hand sanitizer, gloves. So our inspectors switched from inspecting eggs and pesticides to making deliveries to rural hospitals, rural communities, first responders on personal protective equipment. I want to clear up a few rumors out there. There's rumors out there that the government is forcing farmers to euthanize their animals. That is not true. We haven't euthanized any animals in Texas. The government's not making anybody euthanize their animals. The government's not making anybody plow up their crops. There's some of that goes on, but that's just normal course of business. So none of that's true. You hear and see stories of dairymen dumping milk down the drain. We actually haven't done that in Texas. Most of our milk in the big area out in West Texas is made into powdered milk, and we can store that for sales later. The milk dumping was in the northern states where they make cheese. Of course, there was no market for the cheese. The pizza restaurants shut down. The Mexican food restaurants shut down. The Italian food restaurants. The airlines, the cruise lines, the hotel chains, just went to nothing. So we had all that backed up. we've worked real hard to open, all that stuff. We've got still a lot of stuff going on in the food area. We're still working on it, and continue to this day to open up more feeding sites. We've got to have judges, especially in Smith County, in every county, the constitutional judges that'll not legislate from the bench. Jarad is one of those. That's why it was an easy choice for me to come out and endorse him and back Jarad. And he's the kind of he'll be the kind of elected official I like to say you can turn your back on. And what I mean by that is you don't have to watch him. He's going to be the same today, tomorrow, the next day, next year. You don't have to worry about it. He's solid as a rock. Some of these judges, you got to watch them. You can't turn your back on them. They're politicians instead of judges, and they'll do or say whatever's necessary to get elected. Jarad's not that way. He's more of what I call a statesman. Jarad's going to do what's right. It doesn't matter what it costs him. So he's the kind of man we need to get elected and into this position. And I'm proud to be your friend and proud to support your campaign.
Well, thank you so much, Sid. I know our viewers out here in East Texas, they'd probably get on me if we didn't ask for you to sort of tell your favorite Trump story. If you wouldn't, and if you can share that with us, I know they'd love to hear it.
Well, I've got several of them. The president contacted me and said he was having a rally in El Paso. This was about a year ago, maybe a little over a year ago. I think it was a year ago in February. He said, "I want you to meet me at the Air Force One and ride with me to the rally." I said, "Okay." So we got in and got in the car and he said, "Why does this mayor out here say that El Paso wasn't the highest crime city in the nation before we built the wall through it?" I said, "Well, Mr. President, I know something about that. I served in the House, and I was chairman of Homeland Security and Public Safety. So at the time that when we started building the wall, because that was, my charge was to secure the border. Being head of that committee, I was over the DPS, the Texas Rangers, and securing the border." I said, "What they did, it wasn't just El Paso, it was other border towns." I said, "You're from New York, Mr. President." He said, "Yeah." I said, "You know what the term cooking the books is?" He said, "Oh yeah, I know what that is." I said, "They were cooking the books. They weren't turning in the right numbers. They didn't want to be known as the highest crime city, so they didn't turn in the right numbers." He said, "You mean like fake news?" I said, "Yeah, it's like fake news." They didn't report the right numbers. So we went on and got into the event, and he got up and started giving his speech, and the mayor of El Paso's right there sitting with us. I mean, we're like 10 feet from the president, right? And he gets up and I'm the only one he's talked to about this. He says, "Ladies and gentlemen, I've been told that El Paso was the highest crime city in the nation before we built the wall through it. And your mayor keeps claiming that y'all weren't the highest crime city. And I've got it from a very good source that El Paso was the highest crime city in the nation. And your mayor's a piece of crap." he said that right there on national TV. The guy sitting right there by him said, "Your mayor's a piece of crap. He's been cooking the books. It's all fake news." And the guy has no filter. I mean, I felt. I said, "Oh man, you gotta watch what you tell that guy."
Well, I know a lot of us out here in East Texas are praying for him, and so next time you get the chance to talk to him, please let him know that East Texas is praying hard for him. So,
thank you very much. We're always praying for y'all, all of our farmers, and all of our people over in East Texas are. We had those poultry plants is big in East Texas, and we really didn't have anything. We had one shutdown during the pandemic, but it was a scheduled maintenance. They were going to shut down anyway, so it worked out okay. All the plants, beef, pork, poultry, they're all up and running. We're back about 95%. So you should see the price of beef and pork and poultry coming down at the grocery store. Matter of fact, the poultry's already back down pretty much to normal.
Well, thank you so much for being here with us, Sid. We really appreciate it. Thank you for standing with me and in this fight. And I'll talk a little bit about the end of what we need to do to get over the finish line here. But before we get there, I want to turn it over now to Matt Bingham. Matt's here with us. He's the longest serving district attorney, I believe, in Smith County history. If there's anybody that knows what it takes to be a good judge of the 114th District Court, Matt's the guy that's going to know that. He practiced in that court for years and years and years. And so, Matt, why don't you talk to us a little bit? Tell us about your experience in the 114th District Court, your experience as district attorney, and what you think it is that makes a good judge and why you're supporting me.
Well, I'll tell you, first of all, I appreciate the opportunity to be here. I am not the longest serving district attorney. That'd be Jack Skeen, but I am the longest.
Oh, Jack Skeen.
Yeah, I am the longest serving prosecutor. I prosecuted in that office for 23 years, 15 to 16, somewhere around there as the DA. I did practice in the 114th in front of Cynthia Kent for many years. In the other courts, we've been blessed in Smith County to have outstanding judges with a lot of experience as yourself. You know, I've always been involved in the criminal arena, not the civil trial arena. For almost 25 years as a prosecutor, because I prosecuted in Amarillo before that, but also doing defense work, which I do now. I've known you for many years. I've known your family for many years. There's really three reasons that when I decided who I was going to support in this race, I supported you. The first one being you are a lifelong Republican and conservative, and that can't be challenged. You are. Those principles are very important in East Texas and in Tyler and Smith County. I know the experience you have in the courtroom, trying cases, preparing cases. Having run 3 contested races myself, one of the things you learn about politics is it can get very equivocal in the sense that people will say, been involved in this many cases, or I'm the attorney in this record in this case, whatever it may be. And it sends the message to the public that you have picked a jury, you've litigated the case in front of a jury, you've done depositions like you do in the civil arena, that you have been involved in complex litigation, and just in general in the races I've been in, you know, that's not always true. And so you want to get out to the public that the person that needs to sit on the bench is someone that has that real experience. You can put anything on a flyer. And it's hard for the public oftentimes to vet the candidates. So I felt it was important to come in here because I know of the cases you've tried across the United States. I know of the complexity of those cases, and I know how important that is when you go on a district bench. A district judge bench is an extremely powerful position. They make extremely important decisions. Myself, I have tried before a jury 25 murders, capital murders, death penalty cases. Judges make rulings in those cases that ultimately will have an impact on the outcome of the case, whether a person receives the death penalty many times or a life sentence. They will make decisions in cases where a life sentence in the penitentiary is a potential sentence that could be received or assessed within the range of punishment. So you look for people who have the real trial experience, who have been in a courtroom, who have litigated those issues. You look for someone who is an inherently fair person, a good person, someone who can set aside agendas, politics. They can treat everyone the same, that that they are going to apply the law fairly and without bias or prejudice to any party. When I talked to you early on when you got into this race, I know you called me on the phone, and one of the things you said that made such an impact on me is that I'm going to treat everybody fairly. It doesn't matter where you stand on the social ladder. It doesn't matter what money you make. It doesn't matter what part of town you're from. It doesn't make any difference except what are the facts of the case, what is the law applicable in the case, and I'm going to apply that fairly, and I'm going to be fair to everyone that comes into my courtroom. I try to tell people that the role of a district judge is probably, they make some of the most important decisions. It's extremely powerful position. And I know you as a person. I know the experience you have. I know your conservative roots, your Republican roots, your values. And for me, it was an easy decision. You know, I'm not just a lawyer here. I live here. And, you know, I want a judge in Smith County that's going to have those qualities. I mean, you're dealing with people's lives, and you're making decisions that impact families, people's lives, and really serious decisions. And when I looked back at my years practicing in district courts, you know, I went back in my last campaign and tried to add how many cases I'd handled in the 114th, the 7th, the 241st. It's tens of thousands, not 1,000, 2,000, 10,000. It's thousands and thousands of cases. In every one of those cases, you hope you make the right decision, that you are fair as a prosecutor. I tell people nobody in the criminal justice system has the job to convict. Nobody. It's not a judge's job to convict. It's not a prosecutor's job to convict. It's certainly not the defense attorney's. It's to seek a just result. And for the judge, it's to apply those principles of law fairly, not to legislate from the bench, to set aside any agendas. And I know you'll do that. It's the kind of person, and I want a judge that I know Smith County would be proud of, that's going to do the job, take the job seriously, understand the gravity of the power they have, and I guess to make those decisions with the inherent fairness I know you have. That's in a nutshell, you know, why I support you in this case, in this race. And I think, you know, of course, going last and following Mr. Ryan and Aaron and Sandy and Sid, you know, they've said it all. And, you know, I couldn't agree with any more with them than I do. It's everything they said is true. And I'm really echoing that to a great extent, but I come at it from a criminal angle. That's my experience. And I know that you can step into that role as district judge and do a great job on the criminal cases. And I have no question about that.
Well, thank you so much. That means a whole lot to me, and your support through this whole process has really meant a lot to me and to my family as well. Thank you for your years and years and years of dedicated service to our county. Thank you for your friendship and all the advice that you've given me. It really means a lot. So we're getting to the end now, but I do want to take just a moment to let folks know that we are in the middle of early voting, and every day I get the list of folks that have voted. I spend time, hours each day going through that list, and there's so much more left that we need to do to get over the finish line, and we can do it. But it's going to take some help from folks that are watching or folks that watch later to the recording. It's going to take your help for us to get there. And so I'd like to personally ask each of you that's watching, that's tuning in, to commit to, one, getting out there and voting yourself. Polls open tomorrow at 8 o'clock. Go vote early. They'll be open all of next week from 7 to 7, I believe. Go vote early. Runoff date is July 14th. Go vote. That's the first thing, is make sure you get to the polls and let your voice be heard. But also importantly, I'd like each of y'all to commit to calling your friends, calling your neighbors, calling your coworkers, letting them know if you've had personal experiences with me, letting them know why you feel that I'm the right person for the job, and asking them to get out there and vote for me. That's what it's going to take to get us over the finish line. And for everybody that's out there doing that for me, I know there's an army of you. I can't name each of you individually, but thank y'all so very much. My family, Jennifer, my 2 kids, we feel the prayers, we feel the support, we feel the love every day. This is probably one of the hardest things that I've gone through experience-wise in this campaign. Jeff asks me frequently, he says, how's the campaign going? And the answer I give him is, you know that feeling when you're in trial, you've been in trial for a week, maybe 2 weeks? It's that feeling, but over the course of the last year. And so this has been an incredible challenge. And you know what? It should be, because the folks that we ask to lead us and that we ask to step up and serve us, those are folks that should be tested by the fires of a campaign. And so I've endeavored throughout this process to show the folks, to show the voters of Smith County my work ethic, my passion for the law, and my love for our community. And so I hope that's come across to you. I've felt y'all's support, and we've got just a little bit left in this campaign to get to the finish line. So let's all join together, let's push, and we'll get there over the finish line. So with that, I want to thank each of y'all, thank all of our panelists, Sandy, Aaron, Jeff, Matt, Sid. Thank y'all all so much for y'all's friendship, for y'all's support, and for doing this with us tonight. So thank y'all so much, and with that, we'll adjourn. So thank y'all so much.
Thanks, Jared. Good
Good
luck.
night. Go get him, Jared.
Bye.
Get them.